Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line here on TVP World. This is where we unpack the main business and economic stories of the day. I'm your host, Marie Cato. Škoda, the Czech car producer, is proud to celebrate its 130th birthday while enjoying solid financial results for the first half of 2025 as the third best-selling car brand in Europe. Given the challenges the automotive industry faces these days, that's a pretty remarkable achievement. Let's go to Grzegorz Płaza's report for more.
Skoda Auto. The Czech automobile manufacturer, with a history spanning over a century, has just achieved arguably its biggest success to date. For the first time ever, it has become the third most popular car brand in Europe.
Skoda has kind of shown extreme resilience and success on the European market. For them, very important to grow in Western as well as Central Europe, and they have been extremely successful in the past 2 to 5 years.
In the first half of 2025, Škoda secured third place in Europe with over 412,000 vehicle registrations, trailing behind only Volkswagen Group with 748,000 and Toyota with around 440,000. And it has been a meteoric rise for what is a company that just 4 years ago was trailing at the bottom of the top 10 in Europe, with Škoda registrations in the first half of the year up by 58% compared to 2022. While Škoda's representatives point to electric vehicle sales as a major factor in their growing numbers,
our order numbers prove that our EV strategy is also on track. More than 120,000 orders for our all-electric new Enyaq and Elrock models were made by the end of June. This is how we've risen to become the third best-selling car brand in Europe from 10th place just a few years ago, as we grow European deliveries faster than the overall industry.
Experts point out that Škoda stands out not only thanks to their electric line.
One is definitely the well-balanced portfolio of great products, which I think combine nice modern design with something on top against the competitors, be it space, be it simplicity, be it some simply clever, which used to be their slogan, simply clever ideas like hidden umbrellas and similar. Then they, I think, balanced really well also the combustion engine, which they still hold the flag high for the whole Volkswagen Group.
Škoda is wholly owned by the troubled German automaker Volkswagen, which has recently embarked on a cost-cutting campaign that includes plans to slash 35,000 jobs by 2030. But Škoda itself is in a different position.
We do have an outlook on lowering the workforce within, I think, about 3 years' time or so, but that should be voluntary. It should be the kind of currently not occupied workplaces, not being filled, etc. So very gradual, very agreed with the trade unions, and effectively very gradual and natural.
Škoda's success is a major boost for the Czech auto industry, which accounts for 1/3 of the country's manufacturing output and 1/4 of all exports. Last year, the industry broke a new record with almost 1.5 million cars produced. Apart from Škoda, both Toyota and Hyundai also operate factories in the country. For TVP World, Grzegorz Płaza.
In these challenging economic times, a successful business model like Škoda's attracts attention. And the pressing question is, what is the magic formula? And what lies ahead for the automobile brand in a new future with US tariffs and the EU that lacks competitiveness? What about the rest of the Czech economy? Here to break it down for us is Zdeněk Petzl, Executive Director at the Czech Automotive Industry Association. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hello.
So let's begin with the significance of the record for Škoda and the wider Czech automotive industry. We're looking at over an 8% increase in registrations in the first half of this year, and that's a lot to boast about. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's of course great news because in the Czech Republic, the automotive is important. It plays around 9 to 10% of the GDP. And we also have to set that information into wider perspective. So if you look at the total European market, which is the most important market for Europe, for Škoda, of course, the market is down by almost 2%, while Škoda is growing, which makes the news even more significant.
How has Škoda achieved this success, both in terms of revenue, profits and sales? I'd like us to remind our viewers of the journey that the brand has taken over the last, well, actually several years. I'd like to bring up a visual here. Here we see that the registrations of Škoda cars in Europe has actually gone up significantly. The company has gone from number 10 in popularity in 2022 to number 3 in the first half of this year. It's staggering growth in the number of registrations over this period. We're looking at 58%. So what is Škoda's formula? What is the magic formula?
Mm-hmm. I think there are several reasons behind it. First, of course, being Škoda positions itself as a reasonable brand with value for the money. Of course, cars these days are not cheap anymore, but what Škoda offers for the money is really good value proposition for the customer. The second thing, of course, being the wide range of the models, which is something that is really difficult today for let's say every European vehicle manufacturer, because the European CO2 emissions targets are pretty strict. Everybody has heard about the possible end of combustion vehicle sales in 2035, but the target already for this year was 25% of sales being electric, which it clearly shows in the market. The market and the customer is not yet ready. The market was somewhere around 15% at the first half of this year, and Škoda managed to mix their propulsion portfolio with plug-in hybrids, with electrics, and with still having the offer of internal combustion engines in a way that the customer really expects to.
What actually led to the rise in popularity? I mean, you said that they have a pretty broad portfolio, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that Škoda used to be quite an unrecognizable brand. So what was the turning point? Did they hire some clever marketing, PR professionals? Did they bring in people with a great idea for some new designs?
Well, you mentioned Škoda not being desirable, but I think that...
No, recognizable. Recognizable.
Perhaps 20, 30 years ago.
No, I meant recognizable.
Recognizable, for sure. One thing when it comes to recognizability, of course, was their large rebranding, which happened some 2 years ago. And now with the new modern face, I think those cars do really stand out. You can see not only the logo, but the brand name Škoda on each and every car, which I can imagine help when you travel behind the car to recognize those vehicles. And as I mentioned, they broaden up their product portfolio. They focused on fleet sales in the Czech Republic. The sales to the companies, aka the fleet sales, make around 3/4, so 75% of the market. So this is really important part of the market to tap into, and I think Škoda has managed to have really good value propositions for that market. Speaking about Skoda Octavia, but also still managing to keep propositions for private customers that usually look for something smaller, cheaper. So their ability to keep alive their smaller models like Skoda Fabia was, I think, also a great success, because the strict European regulation actually plays against those small models, and we see across the brands that those small models are being discontinued in the markets.
The Skoda Superb has been named the best family car by UK industry journalists, and that's quite the accolade. Did Skoda at some point decide to focus or target a different segment of the market?
For sure, I think it is going slightly upmarket, but still keeping this value for the money proposition. But I think this was something that also sort of was a necessity during COVID time. At a time that you had only a limited resources, a limited number of cars that you could put on the streets, obviously for you as a manufacturer, it would be more reasonable with more value added to put models with larger performance, larger equipment. And so I think this experience sort of resonated and stayed with the brand.
At the end of the day, the success of a business is reflected in the profits and the revenue. So what has changed in Škoda's business model over the last few years?
I don't think many things have actually changed. I think this has been a longer plan that is being well executed, and it simply works. Simply adding the value for the money, keeping the labor conditions reasonable. I think this is one of the issues that we have, again, in general in Europe, that there are strict environmental, regulatory, social and labor conditions that sometimes make the business unfeasible. And as we already discussed, some models, especially the small ones, are being pushed out of the market. So this also sort of pushes towards bringing the brands more upmarket. And I think Škoda has managed to sort of tap into that, and also managed to still keep a larger portfolio of propulsions, because we see that customers really want their be it diesel or petrol vehicles, not only electric.
And as much as this is a story of one company's success, this is also a story of the Czech industry's success. So this reflects a very strong positive for the Czech car industry production and employment. Skoda produces its car parts domestically. And I just wanted to remind our viewers of a few numbers. So 1/3 of the Czech manufacturing is automotive. A quarter of the exports are as well. 1.45 million cars were produced in 2024, which was a record. And Toyota and Hyundai have their plants in the country. So this is a very good reflection of what is happening in the Czech Republic. So a strong boost. What are your thoughts on that? And are there any concerns as to what might happen now that we have, a little bit of volatility in the European trade relations, especially with the agreement that was just set with the US?
There are always challenges, and currently there are many in the automotive industry, but I think this news about Škoda is a really important one and a positive one. There are some 230 companies, supplier companies, directly supplying Škoda from the Czech Republic. So for them, for sure, the success of Škoda and the number of models is a good news. We have seen a lot of issues with the expected production. As I mentioned at the beginning, the European regulation expected manufacturers to produce around 25% of their models in battery electric, but then the market is not there yet. So the customers only are willing to buy around 15% of battery electric vehicles. So if you, as a manufacturer, planned only for those 25% and didn't have any flexibility, then obviously you lost 10% of possible production, and the same goes down through all the value chain, which is then uneconomical. I have to sort of stop. The factories are not used effectively, and they would possibly have to lay off people, which is luckily due to also Škoda in part, because they have around 2-3% of the GDP of the Czech Republic. So this is not happening, and I think the automotive for the Czech Republic has been good news for the Czech economy for the last decades, and it seems that it will continue to play such a positive role.
We can see that Škoda is trying to be a global player, but it's still not in the top 10 most popular brands globally. And it faces competition from China, who moves millions of cars every year. Do you think that Škoda can face this competition from China?
It would really depend on what markets are we talking about. What we see these days is, let's say, partial deglobalization. We have seen the Chinese market being sort of closing into itself. Now we have seen the American markets with the new Trump administration closing into itself. So it's not easy to have a production base in Europe and simply expect that you will export enough vehicles outside. And I think Skoda is responding very smart, in a very smart way and proactive way into that. So they have established their base in other parts of Asia, in India, in Vietnam, in Northern Africa. And I think all of those are potential markets.
And obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you think the future holds for Skoda? How has the company navigated, for example, through the problems of its parent company, Volkswagen? And also, do you expect that Skoda's success will carry on in the near future?
I would certainly hope so. You mentioned at the beginning that per year in the Czech Republic we produce around 1.5 million vehicles. Obviously, most of it being Skoda, nearly 1 million. So at the beginning of this year, the situation was not really going so well. Last year was record production. This year it didn't look so positive from the get-go. But at the moment, with the successes of newly introduced models of Skoda, be it Elroq or a renewed facelift of Enyaq, I think the number is changing, and we will aim sort of for similar numbers that we have seen last year. So, which is definitely good news for all of Czech economy and most of the suppliers because many of them are connected to Skoda.
And how do you anticipate the Czech automotive industry and the broader Czech economy navigating the incoming US tariffs? Because Czech companies also provide components for German manufacturers, including Volkswagen, which is Europe's largest car seller.
This is a difficult question. First of all, the good news is that we have at least some kind of solution. The agreement on the 15%, because what we have seen in European markets, the sales of vehicles were in general slowing down. At the first half of the year was almost 2%, which was not necessarily due to bad economic situation, but I'd say quite a lot also due to uncertainty. The companies were holding off the purchases. So agreements like this possible trade agreement with the United States will give the market a certain certainty, but to be honest, 15% is already pretty steep. This is not something that you as a company could simply pay out of your margins. So there will be a certain loss of exports and production. Luckily for the Czech Republic itself, we are not exposed to the exports to America directly with cars. And really limited by parts, only some 1% of our total exports. But as you correctly mentioned, Germany, with 30% being our number one export market for parts. So from that, it would seem that, let's say, every third supplier will be hit by the limited amount of exports. And also... we will have to bear some impacts on the global European economy. The analysts at the moment expect that the GDP of Europe and Czech Republic will go slightly down by 0.23 percentage point.
Okay, Zdeněk Petzl, Executive Director at the Czech Automotive Industry Association. Thank you so much for being with us today. Great to see you again.
Thank you for having me. Goodbye.
And that concludes The Bottom Line for today. I was your host, Marie Cato. We bring you the best of regional business Monday to Friday at 5:10 CET on TVP World. And in the meantime, for the latest in regional business, follow us on X and on tvpworld.com. Goodbye.